At my wedding, I was exposed as an unemployed loser, but here is the incredible life-changing journey that followed. Jake sat nervously at the back of the room, his heart pounding like a drum. This was supposed to be the happiest time of his life, just days before marrying Sarah in their charming Midwestern town. There were smiles, there were the bubbly sounds of laughter as the guests mingled at the bridal shower, but all he felt was dread creeping in. The anticipation of exchanging vows with Sarah felt overshadowed by the heavy weight of his disappointments. Unemployment had nestled itself in Jake's life like an unwanted guest, snuffing out the spark he used to have. Then it happened. As Aunt Millie raised her glass to toast the bride, she exclaimed, "To Sarah, marrying our very own Jake, that unemployed loser." The room went silent. Heads turned, eyes widened, and gasps floated like invisible clouds through the air. In an instant, laughter died. Jake's face burned with humiliation. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath him, leaving him dangling over a pit of judgment. At that moment, whispers spread like wildfire. Some people sneaked glances, others pretended to look busy. Jake could feel his pride shatter, piece by piece. How could he face Sarah now? He wanted this day to be about love, hope, and joy, not to walk away with a label that screamed failure. As the days turned into a blur, feelings of inadequacy wrapped tightly around him, squeezing harder with every passing hour. Would family and friends still see and love him? Did he deserve to even be part of that wedding? Seeking solace, Jake took a desperate drive to the old park near their house, a place filled with happy memories of childhood. He saw a sign advertising a community charity revitalization project desperately in need of volunteers. With little else to cling to, he walked over. Maybe, just maybe, a shared purpose would help him find himself again. Each swing of the paintbrush and each shove of dirt reminded him of how life had been vibrant once. Amongst a crowd of veterans and neighbors, he discovered camaraderie built on shared struggles and hope. Conversations bubbled up about triumphs and kickstarting dreams, which awakened something in Jake. Slowly but surely, tasks turned into successes, and a sense of belonging began to paint over the isolation he felt for so long. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His family, especially his father, began to notice the change. Old tensions started to ease as he and his dad shared moments over toolkits instead of judgment. Jake realized he was not just reclaiming his self-worth, he was also rebuilding relationships. But as the wedding day loomed closer, doubts still nipped at the edges of his confidence. Could a man seen as a loser truly take center stage on such a momentous occasion? Standing at the altar now, with a crowd of familiar faces staring back at him, Jake felt a swell of emotion rise. The moment had arrived for him to be the keynote speaker, a chance to share his journey of redemption and resilience instead of silence and shame. Would he find the words? Would they hear him or judge him? The spotlight warmed his skin, but his heart raced with unanswered questions. Would the love he felt for Sarah be enough to transcend the judgments of others? Jake took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation. The soft music melted into the background as he looked at Sarah, radiating beauty and grace at the end of the aisle. Her smile pierced through the nervous fog surrounding him like a beacon, grounding him for just a moment. But the laughter, the whispering, and that dreadful label still echoed inside his head. He felt the eyes of the audience digging into him. His stomach twisted painfully. Was he truly ready to stand there and bear his truth? What if they scoffed? What if they dismissed him as Aunt Millie had? Despite the weight of their judgment, Jake remembered the warmth he felt while painting and digging in the community garden. He had shared moments with people who didn't care about his past failures. They cared about actions, passion, and the willingness to grow. Just be real, he whispered to himself. The words were a lifeline, a thread connecting him to the man he had been trying to reclaim. He adjusted his grip on the podium, standing tall. The collective murmuring quieted down, and he felt the space shift. The air pulsed with his unspoken fears. "Everyone," he began, his voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty, "I can't pretend I've had it all together. I haven't tea. But standing here today, I want to talk about something more important than job titles or expectations. It's about love, resilience, and what it means to be a part of something greater than ourselves." A sudden hush fell over the crowd, their eyes now holding curiosity rather than judgment. He could see the confusion and intrigue flicker across their faces. Jake pushed on, fueled by the urge to speak from his heart. "I was lost for a long time. Losing my job felt like losing a part of myself. I worried about what people thought of me, what that label of loser would mean for my relationship with Sarah. But through this journey, I learned that worth isn't defined by a paycheck or public perception." He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes shimmered with tears, a mixture of pride and understanding. That gaze infused him with strength. "The truth is, we all face struggles. We all fall down. But if there's one thing I've learned through everything, it's that we still have the power to rise. I've found hope in doing things for others, building communities, and even reconnecting with my own family. I realized the value of connection, of vulnerability." The crowd leaned in, no longer shrouded in skepticism, but enveloped in support. He caught glances of his family, nods sprinkled throughout the audience, kindness reflected in their eyes. Each reassuring connection fortified his confidence. "I am not defined by my circumstances," he continued, his voice breaking slightly now with emotion. "If you're struggling, if you've ever felt like you're not enough, know that you can rise too. This life we build isn't about a single snapshot, but a story. A story filled with love, forgiveness, and second chances." Applause erupted, echoing around the chapel, but Jake's heart swelled with something even deeper. It wasn't just the applause, but the warmth of acceptance. In that moment, he was more than any label. He was a man stepping into the future with purpose. As he turned to Sarah, she smiled brightly, echoing the love that filled the room. But Jake could see a flicker of something in her eyes, a concern that lingered beneath the surface. What had she been holding back? Before he could voice the question simmering in his mind, the sound of the doors creaking open broke the moment. Jake's gaze turned instinctively. A figure stood just outside, silhouetted against the light, someone he never expected to see at this moment. With tension in the air, who stood before him? What would this stranger's presence mean for Jake, Sarah, and all that had changed in the last weeks? Jake's breath hitched in his throat as the figure stepped into view. The light poured in, illuminating a face he recognized all too well. It was Steve, his former boss, the very man who had delivered the news of his layoff. Jake's heart raced, memories of that painful day flooding back to him like a tide dragging him under. The applause from the crowd faded into a distant echo as Jake stood frozen. "Steve?" Jake managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. The crowd murmured, glancing between Jake and the unexpected intrusion. They were all just as curious as he was. What was Steve doing here? "Jake," Steve replied, his voice drawn and heavy. I needed to talk to you." As he stepped further into the chapel, the warmth of the moment abruptly shifted into something electric with tension. Sarah's expression shifted from joy to caution. She stepped slightly forward, her protective instincts kicking in. "Is everything okay?" she asked, eyes darting between Jake and Steve. "Honestly, no," Steve admitted, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I thought I could just sit back and let you have your moment. But I can't. You deserve to hear this, and I can't just stand by anymore." Jake's stomach dropped. He was vulnerable, raw in front of everyone. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Yet, curiosity gnawed at him. "What do you mean?" he replied. Steve cleared his throat, his expression softening. "I realized I was wrong about you. About your potential. I chose to fire you thinking it was the decision that had to be made for the company. But you were the heart of that team, and I never recognized how much you meant to us all." The crowd shifted uncomfortably, whispers of disbelief and interest bubbling up like a quiet storm. Sarah's hand tightened around Jake's, her support steady even amid the chaos. Since you left, Jake, I've been receiving calls from clients asking about you. They miss your creativity and the way you connected with them, Steve continued, his voice gaining strength. I need you back on the team if you're willing to come. I can't just let the chance to work with someone who creates community slip by again. Jake felt a whirlwind of emotions course through him. Was this what he wanted? A chance to return to the same job that had crushed him? Steve, Jake began slowly, I appreciate that, but it's not the same anymore. I've fought hard to redefine who I am, something I thought I had lost. He glanced at Sarah. Everything's different now. I'm different. Then don't come back for who you were. Come back for who you've become. This isn't about returning to the old Jake. This is about taking that same passion and redefining what this role means for you, Steve urged, his eyes pleading. Silence blanketed the chapel. Jake could feel the weight of every gaze on him. A swirling storm of decisions loomed heavy on his heart. What did he truly want? Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, her encouraging presence grounding him in the midst of uncertainty. But there was still that flicker of concern. Did she want him to take this opportunity or forge ahead without the shadows of the past? Jake, think about it, Steve pressed, desperation lacing his tone. Searching the faces around him, friends, family, Jake found the courage to voice the question that had been building up inside him all day. Have I really changed, or am I just chasing after the past? The moment hung suspended as the crowd held its breath, waiting for Jake's answer. What would he choose? Would he leap into the familiar, or would he carve a new path for himself? Jake stood at the center of the room, his mind racing. The faces surrounding him seemed to blur, their expressions shifting between curiosity and concern. Sarah's grip on his hand was a lifeline, a gentle reminder that, no matter what choice lay ahead, he wouldn't have to face it alone. Jake, Steve's voice broke through the fog. You don't have to respond right now. Just think about it. Easier said than done. The weight of Steve's offer pressed down on him, filling every crevice of his mind with doubts. Could he really go back to a place that had torn him apart? Instinctively, Jake leaned into Sarah's warmth. Her steady presence reminded him that he'd built something new over these last few months, a life, not just woven from memories of despair, but filled with hope and determination. Yet, the thought of reclaiming that passion tugged at him. The creativity he had fostered, the connections he had made, all that he had lost on the day Steve had delivered that gut-wrenching news, it all bubbled to the surface now, mingling with his newfound sense of self. Jake, you're not hearing what I'm saying, Steve pressed on, his voice more urgent. This isn't about turning back the clock. It's about building something better. You've shown resilience. You're stronger now. Our team needs that. I need that. Jake saw the desperation in Steve's eyes, a mirror of the tumult within himself. For a fleeting moment, he considered the familiar routines, the friendships built in endless brainstorming sessions. Memories of laughter mixed with echoes of pain began spinning like a carousel in his mind. Jake? Sarah's soft voice cut through the haze. What do you want? She took a half step closer, a silent plea for honesty. With everyone watching, the truth bubbled up. I want to be the best version of myself, he said, a tremor in his voice. But can I do that in a place where I once felt so defeated? The crowd held collective breaths again, tension wrapping the chapel in a shroud. Jake could feel the pounding of his heart, every beat emphasizing the enormity of his decision. Part of him longed for familiarity, while another part craved uncharted waters, growth and adventure without the weights of his past. Maybe you can redefine that space, a voice called from the back of the room. It was his friend, Mike, whose smile always reached his eyes. You've grown. You can shape this opportunity into something new. Just think. What if you took that passion and infused it into something fresh? The words settled over Jake like a comforting blanket. In that moment of clarity, he realized he could choose to redefine his narrative. He could step back into that world not to relive the past, but to transform it. Could I really do that? He whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The uncertainty felt slightly less daunting now. Empowered by the words of those around him, ideas of what could be danced in his mind. He could create a space where hope triumphed over despair, where collaboration breathed new life into tired memories, but then a thought struck. What if, in pursuing this opportunity, he began to lose the essence of who he had become? What if he became someone he didn't recognize again? The chapel light flickered, framing the moment in a celestial glow. Jake felt a pull, one that tugged him between two worlds, the past and the promise of a future laden with possibility. "I need a moment," he finally said, the weight of what lay before him crashing heavily in his chest. As he turned away, seeking the quiet of the chapel's shadowed corners, he felt the eyes of the congregation upon him. Anticipation weighed in the air. Jake's pulse quickened with uncertainty, yet the thread of potential coursed through him. Would he find clarity in the silence? Would he forge a path ahead or linger in ambiguity? That lingering question hung unchallenged as he stepped towards the edges of the room, contemplating the journey still waiting to unfold. Jake slipped away from the chatter, the voices echoing behind him like whispers of encouragement and doubt. The chapel's cool shadows embraced him, and he welcomed the solitude, wanting to gather his thoughts without the weight of everyone's expectations. He leaned against the wall, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. Outside, the sun streamed through the stained glass, casting colorful patterns on the floor. It reminded him of better times, the hustle of creativity, the buzz of a brainstorming session, and the laughter shared over late-night projects. But those recollections were tainted now, laced with heartache and betrayal. "Why am I thinking about this?" he murmured, frustration creeping into his voice. Did he truly want to catapult back into that vortex of emotions, into a world that had stripped him bare? With each passing moment, the pull of nostalgia was setting him adrift. "Aren't you tired of running?" Someone stepped into the shadows beside him. It was Sarah, her face a mix of concern and resolve. "You've built something special here with me. You have a choice, Jake." Her words struck a chord deep within him. "I feel like I'm at a crossroads," he admitted, trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. "I want to do something meaningful, but every time I think of going back, all I see is loss." "That's the past, Jake. You're not that person anymore. It's time to take all that pain and create something out of it." She stepped closer, her eyes wide with sincerity. "What if you could take that hurt and turn it into a message, something that could inspire others? You're strong enough to do that now." He looked down, the floor suddenly feeling like a rocky cliff. "What if I fail? What if I walk back into a place that sees me as a shadow of my former self?" Sarah shook her head. "That's not who you are. You've overcome so much. But retreating won't give you the closure you need. You're meant for more." Her words hit home, and Jake's heart began racing again, but this time, it was with determination. "Then how do I take that step?" The question hung heavy in the air, an invitation to explore the depths of his resolve. "Embrace who you've become," she said firmly. "Stand tall and let them see the real you, the you who has survived. If you face those fears, it might be the very thing that sets you free." Jake's mind whirled with possibilities. What if he could confront his past while tethering himself to the promise of a future steeped in growth? Could he stake claim to his journey and flip the script? But self-doubt lingered like a specter, whispering warnings as if it owned a piece of him still. "It could end up hurting more than helping. Or it could heal you completely," Sarah said softly, her eyes locking onto his. "The choice is yours." In that moment, a wave of courage washed over him. Perhaps this was the moment he'd been waiting for, where choices and possibilities melded into a fragile, powerful hope. "I have to do this," he whispered, tasting the resolve on his lips. "But I don't know what it looks like yet." Her smile brightened the gloom around them. "That's the adventure, Jake. Discovering what it looks like, one step at a time." With a deep breath, he pushed himself off the wall, standing a little taller. The flickers of uncertainty began to fade, chased away by the light of possibility. Suddenly, the quiet alarm of the chapel organ broke the hush, a signal heralding the gathering of friends and family back into their seats. He was drawn back to the room, the spot where his past and future awaited him in stark contrast. As he returned to the gathering, the faces turned towards him, a tapestry of anticipation, hope, and encouragement. With every stride, he felt lighter, balancing on the brink of something new. But just as he reached the edge of the room, a thought pierced through his newfound confidence, sending a chill down his spine. What if facing his past also opened up old wounds he wasn't ready to confront? He paused, uncertainty creeping back. Would stepping into that world only send him spiraling back into despair? The air thickened with anticipation as he stood there, heart racing, poised on the threshold of transformation. What awaited him on the other side, and could he truly redefine his past into something powerful? Jake took a moment, letting the sounds of the gathering wash over him. They were murmurs of hope and support, fragile threads of connection that tugged at his heart. All those familiar faces, some smiled, some looked anxious. It was as if they sensed the battle raging inside him. He felt Sarah's presence behind him, a silent anchor. "You've got this," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. With those words, he turned and faced the crowd. Every gaze was a gentle push forward. He stepped into the space before them, still feeling that whisper of doubt trying to pull him back. But he took another deep breath, letting the air fill his lungs and steady his resolve. Before he could second-guess himself, Jake blurted out, "I'm grateful to see all of you here today." His voice, though slightly shaky, cracked through the air with sincerity. "There was a time when I thought I wouldn't share this moment with anyone again." Laughter rippled through the crowd, easing the tension coiled in his chest. "But I've come to realize," he continued, a warmth spreading inside him, "that it's not just about the past. It's about what we do with our experiences moving forward." He gazed into the faces of his friends and family. He saw a range of emotions reflected back, understanding, love, and a strong sense of community. Jake felt stronger, the weight of regret slowly shifting. "I've made mistakes. I've lost my way. But in losing myself, I've also discovered so much. I've learned that it's okay to feel broken, to feel lost. What matters is how we let those moments shape us." With each word, a sense of liberation coursed through him. It was as if he was shedding the remnants of doubt and fear, allowing room for growth and change. "Sharing this day with you all means more than I can express. You have shown me kindness when I didn't have any to give myself. Your faith in me has helped me remember who I am and who I aspire to be." He could feel the warmth of their support enveloping him like a blanket. "Today, I stand before you, not fully formed, but willing to embrace the journey of becoming. With all of you beside me, I feel ready to redefine myself." The applause that erupted felt like a wave crashing over him. Cheers and laughter filled the chapel, washing away the remnants of his earlier fears. As the room settled, Sarah stepped forward, her face radiant with pride. "Jake, we believe in you. Just remember that this journey is yours. Take it day by day. Grow at your own pace." Her words hung in the air, full of hope and encouragement. Jake smiled back at her, a sense of gratitude swelling in his chest. "And I'm not just doing this for myself." He glanced behind him at Sarah and then took a long look at the audience. "I want my story to be one of triumph and resilience. I hope that by sharing my struggle, I can help someone else out there. We're all fighting our battles in some way." As the applause crescendoed again, Jake felt a sense of belonging that he hadn't experienced in a long time. It was as if the very air around him was charging with potential, but a new thought crept into his mind as he remembered the past he was still trying to navigate. What if he truly embraced this new path? What if, in seeking to help others, he discovered more about himself than he ever thought possible? With excitement tinged with uncertainty, he vowed to explore that path. Yet, just as he began to feel the weight lifting, a voice echoed through his thoughts, an old friend. Doubt. What if the journey he was about to embark on uncovered scars he thought he had healed? As those questions swirled through him, Jake realized he was no longer standing still. The path ahead promised challenges, growth, and perhaps the most terrifying thing of all, vulnerability. As he faced the crowd again, empowered and resolute, he could practically feel the next chapter of his life waiting for him, teetering on the edge of discovery. Would he be ready to meet whatever lay ahead with open arms? The applause echoed in Jake's ears, a mixture of joy and disbelief. He took a step back, letting the warm, vibrant energy of the room sink into him like a soothing balm. Yet beneath that glow, doubt simmered. Was he really prepared to step into the unknown? The chatter around him faded into a soft hum as he glanced at Sarah. She was beaming, her eyes shining with pride. Something about her unwavering belief in him settled the frantic beating of his heart. It gave him a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt in years, but just as that warmth enveloped him, another wave of anxiety surged. What if he wasn't good enough? What if he couldn't actually make a difference? He gripped the podium tightly, feeling the smooth wood press against his palms, a tangible anchor in this sea of uncertainty. Jake! A voice called from the back. Sophia, an old friend he hadn't seen in years, waved enthusiastically. Her familiar face brought a rush of nostalgia, reminding him of laughter and carefree days. She made her way through the crowd, her energy undeniable. "You were amazing up there." Her words created a connection, a lifeline tossed into the turbulent waters of his thoughts. "Thanks, Soph," he replied, trying to shake off his insecurities. "Just speaking what I feel." "Don't downplay this," she said, her eyebrows raised. "You've inspired us all. You don't realize how many people look up to you." Each word was like a flicker of light piercing through his doubts. He could feel the room buzzing, aware that this moment was part of something bigger, something truly transformative. "I just want to help," he said, half to her, half to himself. "I want to reach out and make a difference. I've been lucky to have support. I want to give that back." She nodded, understanding. "Everyone has struggles, Jake. Your voice means something. Just sharing your story can lift someone up. It's okay not to have it all figured out." Jake sighed, allowing himself to absorb her encouragement. Could it really be that simple? He thought about the people who had changed his life with a single word, with a listening ear or a kind gesture. If he could be that for someone, he felt hopeful. As the evening wore on, laughter filled the air and the atmosphere shifted from somber to celebratory. They shared stories, creating a tapestry of memories woven from struggle and hope. In those moments, Jake noticed how vulnerability sparked connection. It was beautiful, really seeing everyone come together, supporting one another regardless of their past. A sudden realization hit Jake like a lightning bolt. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone here. He felt a surge of strength welling up within him, pushing fear aside. Maybe the real journey starts now, he thought. With every shared experience, Jake realized that each person carried their own scars, their own battles. It struck him. What if by embracing his struggles and inviting others to do the same, he could cultivate a fierce sense of community, one built on acceptance and resilience? He laughed suddenly, surprising himself. Why not be the guy who helps others along the way? Make an impact? Be that friend? As conversations fluttered around him, the moment felt perfect. Yet, in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling of impending change. What lay ahead promised both challenges and triumphs. What if, against all odds, he not only found healing for himself, but also uncovered a gift for helping others heal too? The idea thrilled him, yet his heart raced with what that might entail. But the question lingered, heavy in the air. Could he bear to fully tread this path, exploring the depths of those raw, unhealed wounds for the sake of healing others? As Jake's gaze drifted back to Sarah, her encouraging smile served as a beacon. He knew one thing: whatever happened next on this journey, he didn't have to face it alone. The real test was just beginning, and he couldn't wait to dive in. Would he have the courage to step deeper and embrace all that came with it? Jake felt the buzz of the crowd wrap around him like a warm blanket, but he couldn't shake the way the heart of the celebration pulled him in different directions. Each face shared stories of struggle and resilience, and although he was excited, a new undercurrent of uncertainty churned within him. After the applause faded, a heavy thought settled in. What if he failed as this person who wanted to help others? He took a deep breath and turned his focus back to the laughter that surrounded him. Sophia was still talking, her words punctuated by the occasional burst of laughter. "Remember that time we got completely lost trying to find that cafe?" She gestured animatedly, and Jake couldn't help but chuckle at the memory. "Yeah, terrible directions. We ended up wandering through half the city," he replied, feeling that flicker of camaraderie reignite. "You were so mad at me," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "I may have been," he admitted, laughing. but it led to a great adventure. Sophia nodded, her expression turning serious. See? Adventures have ups and downs, but you always find something valuable on the way. Just like this, she said, sweeping her arm around to take in the community that had gathered. Don't forget that this is an adventure too. Her words lingered in his mind. Jake realized that life was like that cafe adventure full of surprises, both good and bad, and he was weaving his story with everyone there. Maybe he didn't have to have every answer right now. The evening rolled on, and as glasses clinked and stories flowed, he felt lighter. The more he spoke with people, the more he absorbed their strengths. He could feel the collective energy in the room shifting, tightening like a net, binding them into something greater than themselves. It felt powerful. Jake knew he needed to act, to become a part of this shared healing. He stirred with determination. Maybe through their struggles, they could all inspire one another. Perhaps the healing he was seeking could be fostered by creating spaces for others to open up to. But then, a daunting question resurfaced. How could he lead this, knowing his scars were still raw? What if sharing his journey only exposed him as an unemployed loser, as the whispers from his past echoed cruelly in his mind? Would he be met with support or with judgment? Just then, Sarah caught his gaze across the room and nodded, as if sensing his turmoil. Her unwavering support anchored him amidst the chaos. "Jake!" A voice called out from behind him. It was Max, someone he'd known for ages. "Come on, we need you to share that story you told. It's inspiring." A few others chimed in, nodding enthusiastically. His stomach flipped. He could feel the pressure build. The spotlight was on him once again. Questions surged. Would he be able to speak without revealing too much? Could he share his truth without crumbling under the weight of judgment? Just be honest, he whispered to himself, though he wasn't quite sure he believed it. He swallowed hard, every ounce of doubt bubbling underneath his excitement. As he stepped forward to take the small stage, he felt the familiar warmth wash over him. This was the moment he had both longed for and dreaded. Jake took a deep breath and steadied himself, grasping the microphone tightly. The murmurs faded, and the room fell silent, all eyes on him. "Hey, everyone. I'm here to share a bit of my journey." Just as he began to speak, he spotted a familiar face peeking through the crowd, a face that sent a cold shiver down his spine. It was his old friend, someone whose opinion mattered more than he wanted to admit. With it came a rush of memories, moments of laughter overshadowed by whispers of doubt. What had he really signed up for? Would he be making a fool of himself, parading his missteps and fears in front of all these people? His heart raced, pounding in his chest like a drum. But as he looked out again, something sparked in him, the hope of connection, the possibility of growth. "Can I do this?" he thought, breath catching in his throat. And then he reminded himself, no one else has it all figured out either. The real question was, could he find the courage to stand tall in his truth and seize this moment, no matter the outcome? Jake inhaled deeply, ready to spill his heartfelt journey into the microphone, knowing each word could be a thread woven into the fabric of this community. Let us begin. But before he could continue, a different face emerged from the crowd, one he never expected to see. Could this person's arrival change everything Jake hoped to build? Jake's heart dropped as he recognized the figure making its way through the crowd. It was Emily, his college roommate and a person who had once seen him at his best. Their friendship had been a lifeline during those chaotic years, but had unraveled when life's circumstances pulled them in different directions. "Jake," she called out, her voice breaking through the chatter like a siren. The smile on her face felt forced, reminding him of all the times they had supported each other and all the expectations that had gone unfulfilled. She stepped closer, weaving through the gathering. Her presence felt like a double-edged sword, so comforting yet so intimidating. The warmth he associated with their memories was overshadowed by the fear of judgment lurking behind her wide smile. "I can't believe it's you. I heard you were speaking tonight." She glanced around, her enthusiasm drawing attention. Jake's breath quickened. He could feel the weight of others' gazes, their curiosity palpable. "Yeah, I'm just," he stumbled on his words, suddenly unsure how to frame the story that had come to mean so much. "It's not exactly a celebratory tale," he thought, Before he could respond, she added, "I never thought you'd be in a place like this, being so open. You always had such a way with words." A hint of nostalgia mixed with disbelief passed over her features. It felt both sweet and stinging. "It's a journey," Jake managed, hoping the weight of her presence wouldn't cause him to falter under the pressure. Memories flooded back like old ghosts, late-night discussions full of ambition, laughter, and dreams that felt too big for reality. "Are you sharing that story about the cafe? You know, the one we got lost looking for?" She teased lightly, but her eyes held a deeper curiosity, as if she were gauging how far he had come. Sorta." He glanced around the room again, trying to shake the nerves that tightened in his chest. "It's about how I ended up here, wanting to help others with their struggles. That sometimes we don't see all the good parts until we look closely." The room was still but for the occasional clatter of dishware. Emily's friendly demeanor softened those hard edges of anxiety. "Jake, that's amazing. You've always had this way of turning experiences into something meaningful." She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "But you okay? You've been through so much." "I mean, I heard things." The implication hung heavy between them. He took a breath, her concern both comforting and disarming. "I've been struggling, yeah. But I'm trying to find my way back into the light." He hesitated. The truths of his journey lingered right at his lips, but how much could he reveal without stripping bare the parts of himself that still felt fragile? He was here to inspire, not to be weighed down by his past. As Jake looked into her eyes, he suddenly wished to be vulnerable, to share all he felt. He needed to be honest, not just with the crowd but with himself. "What if sharing my story only unravels me?" He wrestled with the thought. Emily stepped back slightly, sensing his inner turmoil. "Whatever you decide to share, I'm in your corner. Remember, we all have stories that shape us. We just have to choose to tell them." The energy of the room began to shift as others leaned in, their interest growing. He felt a swell in his chest, a strange mix of warmth and apprehension, anchored by Emily's supportive presence. "Thank you," he whispered, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe he could do this. Maybe he wasn't just standing alone against the tide of judgment. "Okay, let us do this." But just as he began to speak again, another figure emerged from the shadows, their face etched with an expression so familiar, yet fraught with complications that would change everything. Could this arrival be the catalyst for Jake to confront his past and step boldly into a future filled with possibility? Jake stood frozen, heart pounding in his chest, as the figure in the doorway stepped into the light. It was Sam, a former colleague and the one person whose actions had contributed to Jake's downfall. The air thickened, tension coiling around him like a tightly wound spring. "What are you doing here?" Jake's voice was steady, but anxiety tugged at the edges of his composure. The crowd looked between them, whispers flitting like moths drawn to the flame of intrigue. "I came to see you," Sam replied, his tone soft yet heavy with regret. "I heard about your journey and I needed to apologize." The weight of those words hit Jake hard. Apologies were rare, especially in a place so filled with acceptance and new beginnings. Behind those small, simple words lay a world of chaos, heartbreak, and the past they once shared. Jake felt the heat rise to his cheeks. "You fired me," the words slipped out before he could stop them. "You turned your back when I needed support the most." "I know," Sam replied, taking half a step forward, hands raised in sincerity. "And I regret it every day. But more than that, I wanted you to know that your creativity, your passion, they meant a lot, more than I ever expressed." His gaze scanned the room, lingering on the supportive faces surrounding Jake. "I lost sight of that. And now, seeing where you've come from, it hurts to think I was part of the pain." The silence was deafening, and Jake could feel tension simmering among the crowd. Mixed emotions surged through him like a violent sea. "You think a few nice words change everything? You think you can just waltz in and expect forgiveness?" His voice became louder, emotions spilling over. Sam opened his mouth to speak, hesitating as if the right words evaded him. "No, I don't expect that at all. I know I messed up, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed to tell you, watching you grow, it's inspired me to see my own failures." Jake's anger was real but also fractured. Memories of loss mingled with a flicker of understanding. "You saw me as a name on a roster, A number to be cut, he shot back, though the edge softening with every beat of his heart. You didn't value anything I brought. I know, Sam said, voice cracking slightly. And I'm so sorry. I keep replaying those days in my head, wishing I could change it. You were so much more than I recognized. Jake looked around the room. The support that enveloped him felt like a buoy, a testament to where he'd been and who he had become. They weren't just witnessing a confrontation, they were supporting his growth. It's exhausting, he finally admitted, the words tumbling out. To carry anger while you're just trying to find your way through. Then let it go, Sam urged gently. It's okay to be angry, but it's also okay to take a step forward, to reclaim your narrative. Look around, your journey brought you here. Jake's heart raced. He thought of all the connections he had forged, the friends who rallied around him during his darkest days. He knew that walking away from resentment, he could embrace a new beginning not just for himself, but for others too. Taking a deep breath, he turned to Sam. This moment isn't just about you and me. It's about our choices, the ones we've made and the ones we're about to. I understand, Sam responded softly, the guilt apparent in his voice. And in that moment, everything aligned. Jake saw his past not as a weight, but as a part of the mosaic that made him whole. He pulled in a breath, feeling lighter, the wound from betrayal now a scar that heralded growth. I'm moving forward, Jake declared, the weight settling into conviction. And I hope you can learn from this. Our journeys can intertwine, even if we walk different paths. The room exploded into applause, a swell of love wrapping around them like sunshine after a storm. Encouragement rippled through the air as the crowd embraced the confrontation as a moment of healing, not just for Jake, but for Sam too. He turned back to the crowd, determination clear in his voice. We all have struggles, and running from them will keep us shackled. Today, isn't just about my journey, but how we rise together. As he stepped off the podium, the warmth of connection surged through him. The moment solidified his path, the path of a man ready to embrace not just his story, but those of others yearning for light and healing. Jake's gaze found Sarah, her eyes glistening with pride and a silent promise of support. And in the rush of warmth filling the room, he realized this was where he belonged. This was his new beginning, with the chapel buzzing with excitement and hope. Jake's heart soared. No more hiding. No more definitions stitched from shame. He was ready to step into the future, no longer an unemployed loser, but a man ready to embrace his journey, tell his truth, and help others find their own light. Jake smiled, the exuberance in the air palpable as he faced the crowd. They were more than witnesses, they were family, and together, they would see this journey flourish. Now, more than ever, he felt the urgency to create spaces of acceptance and vulnerability wherever he went, with excitement bubbling up inside him. Jake finally shared, "Join me in this journey. Let us rise together." The chapel erupted into laughter and cheers, and in that moment of joy and camaraderie, he knew what he had to do. He had to help. Now is the time for you to become part of the journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending, because we want to hear from you. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support matters.